Hey everybody, welcome back to the Overwatch channel on YouTube, also at overwatchproject.com. Thanks for tuning in. I just wanted to make a video for a viewer that requested that I cover confirmation biases again, and I have in the past covered cognitive or brain screw-up biases that we all suffer from. But I want to try it again and try to make my point a little clearer than I did last time. So we all know that, or many of us, most of us know about confirmation or cognitive biases. These are like a list here on Wikipedia of all the different ones that have been cataloged by different psychiatrists and psychologists and people that study human behavior, scientists, etc. And you can see how many of them there are. And some websites even have a nice little infographic to show you about some of the different things that get in our way that cause us to screw up our decision making. But I wanted to point out something that none of these explain well. Actually, there is no explanation. I'm going to give you my theory, but you can look at, like I always do, I always source my videos. Every link you see that I show you, I'm going to have in the description section below so you can do your own research. But I just want you to think about something. Think about the human experience that you are having, that I'm having, that we're all having while we're occupying these physical bodies in this material world that has parameters. Scientists today will tell you that it does look like we're living in a simulation or some type of hologram, like a game environment. And when you're in that kind of environment, there are limitations on what the game tries to limit you, what you can and can't do. And it sure does seem like life works that way sometimes. But besides all of these different biases, we understand and people behave with a simple understanding of the law of cause and effect, or the principle of cause and effect as described by the Kybalion. And you can, understand it simply as every cause has an effect, every effect has its cause. You can, if you're into computers or anything, you can think of it more like a logical argument, if this, then that. And we go through our lives understanding what to do next, how to behave, how to be at work, how to be at home, how we change how we do things, where we're at, and we manage to do it, and get through the day without killing ourselves or killing other people. Most people do that, right? Most people manage to do that. And just think about driving, how many decisions we make while we're driving. We have to be hyper aware, even if it's subconscious, of causation as we get in our 5,000 or whatever pound vehicle and move it from point A to point B and get there safely. And how many times that people do that every day all over the planet. Or you think about air travel. Think about how we instinctively understand it can't be perfect, but we work really hard, and between 80,000 to 100,000 commercial airline flights happen each day around the world. And I don't know how many people they move, but with that many flights, depending on the number of passengers, you may be moving 1 million people a day in aircraft. And once in a while, an accident will happen. We understand that accidents will happen despite best efforts. Think about how safe airline travel is, in spite of all of our human prone to errors that we are when we make decisions. We're able to create this system that works best for most people, and it works, right? It works. If you wanted to fly somewhere and you can come up with the money, you get a ticket, you go on the plane, it takes off, you fly, you land, you get off, and you're there, and you can come home. And we have somehow, this system gets screwed up in two places that exceeds the norm. And these two places are, and I'm talking about in the majority here, not everyone. It's not making a general statement. I'm talking about the majority of people get into their cars and drive. The majority of people that run the airline system and create airplanes do an amazing job. But the majority of people, when it comes to understanding political matters that affect their personal lives, matters of society and culture, or matters that, when they encounter discussions or whatever they accept as their model of reality, whatever source they got that from. When it comes to these two things, understanding reality and societal affairs, these biases turn up on steroids, and all of a sudden people can't behave. They can't collectively or even individually think the same way they do everywhere else in the world for every other thing. And politics, when you really think about it, we're lied to constantly about it. It's not a matter of opinion. People want to tell you that their politics is a matter of opinion. It's really not. Because the principle of cause and effect that we have everywhere else in life is present in political matters. It's also present in understanding reality. Cause and effect. How we see the world affects the decisions we make, and should we try to see it accurately? How we, what we vote for, what we promote to allow powers to govern create rules on our behalf. All of these things have causes and effects and causes. If then if this, then that. But the majority of people actually become completely insane when these two factors are introduced. All of a sudden, these confirmation biases go way beyond what can possibly be explained. My theory is that we're designed. Our brain is a processor with firmware, with its own algorithm. And scientists that have studied consciousness for decades and in depth and have lots of direct witness and direct evidence that shows that our consciousness is not produced by our brain, but they'll tell you kind of nonchalantly, actually, they'll tell you the brain is a limiter or reducing valve to consciousness. And nobody seems to ask the question, why does my consciousness need to be reduced? Why does it have to be limited? And if it does have to be limited or reduced for some reason that's beneficial to me, shouldn't it be limited and reduced in a way that doesn't make the majority of people fucking crazy when it comes to dealing with things that cause suffering, cause tyranny, cause poverty, cause chaos, cause guilt, unnecessary guilt, cause people to commit suicide for their deity or whatever, or in the past has caused people to do human sacrifice or animal sacrifice? Does my consciousness or the consciousness of most people need to be reduced that it causes that? But something causes that. And politics, like I said, is not a matter of opinion really, because you can learn throughout history what you try something and it doesn't work, and so you change it. We do that all over the place. Like the airline industry today wouldn't be where it is if they didn't do that. If they didn't adapt to change. If they didn't try to make it safe for everybody, understanding that it can't be perfect. You enter the world of politics and people are out there trying to sell you utopia that can never exist here. And despite the fact that we have historical, provable documentation of what works economically and what doesn't work, and what can make most people happy, just like in the airline industry, what can make most people safely get to their destination. When you're dealing with the world that affects you every moment of every day, political matters, societal matters, things that limit what you can and can't do in society, sometimes without reason, sometimes just to remove your freedom and individuality. When we're dealing with this subject, all of a sudden now, it's beyond chaos. There's no improvement, hardly ever. A couple of bumps in history here and there where freedom's risen for people, but the majority of our human history is tyranny, suffering, oppression, and war. And then you have the people that want to tell you how to see reality. The atheists. Look at this explanation for what is atheism. Seriously, you couldn't have explained it shorter than this? Or the religious people out there. It can be any religion. But look at what Ken Ham's done here. He's built his ark. And, wow, yeah. Let's bring people in here and brainwash them some more, you know? Just like the atheists brainwash people in their system of non-belief. They have this crazy algorithm of this can't be, therefore whatever evidence you have for whatever can't be true, you know? So you can't. They love to attack religions because it's an easy target for them, but they won't when they deal with consciousness in general or certain evidential things about consciousness and the human body and the brain. They don't want to go there because they have no defense for that. They become like apologists. Ken Ham here, let's block out everything we do with the Epic of Gilgamesh, Sumerian history. We'll just not worry about evidence of flooding that happened between 11 and 12,500 years ago that buried a lot of cities underwater, that we have all these different myths from a time that came way before Ken Ham says the world should even have existed 12,000 years ago. And his unbelievable literal interpretation of the Bible, which he debates on, and people are not movable from these positions. It is very, very bizarre. Nowhere else in life do we see this kind of rigidness, this type of single-mindedness. You can present all the verifiable NDE data that is not anecdotal to atheists, and they still will not believe consciousness is not produced by the brain. Despite what they say here in this description, I've never heard an atheist accept that consciousness is a thing that we are, that we occupy our bodies, and then when our bodies and brains shut down, our consciousness remains alive better than ever. I have never heard an atheist ever deal with that, but we have NDE data that's not anecdotal. See, even people like Rupert Sheldrake, for some reason, they'll use the word anecdotal. Pim Van Lommel will use the word anecdotal. Other scientists will use the word anecdotal when it comes to some NDE data. But when somebody that you can interview tells you what they experienced, that is not an anecdotal experience. It's called direct evidence. Look it up. We accept that in courts of law. It's not hearsay evidence. It is not some historical ancient document that nobody can verify anymore, that's been copied over and over again. We don't have the originals. It's direct evidence, and it counters both religions and it counters atheism. It also appears that some people that come back from these experiences buy whatever bullshit the entities tell them, but also doesn't make any sense in light of reality. You have what they call the astral plane, or the next higher dimensional level beyond this one, I suppose. You can call it the astral plane if you want. That's like a name that somebody created, but I don't know what it is exactly. I just know that that's where you meet your loved ones, you get your life review, you meet your whatever, spirit guide, angels, Jesus, it's all waiting for you. Buddha, it's all there waiting for you, depending on who you are when you die. And, I know reincarnation is a thing. There's also evidential stuff that supports that beyond any doubt, along with the fact that consciousness goes on beyond the physical body. But there's something about the brain that, I'm trying to say here. The brain gets in the way it doesn't just limit or reduce consciousness. It gets in the way of us being able to see reality. Reality itself that we perceive is a lie. And it does its best to make sure that no one can agree on what it is. Whoever runs it, whatever runs it, wants to make sure we don't fully understand it. And they've done a great job. I do not fully understand. I only can do this. And what I recommend is that you don't take my word for any of this. That's why we'll source all these links for you so you can do your own research. But we all have to be our own gurus. Don't look to me for any answers. You need to, if you're interested in this stuff, you need to do your own research in depth. You need to do it yourself so you can see for yourself. See, everybody has like a half truth, a quarter truth, piece of information here, a piece of information there. It doesn't matter what the source is. Ken Ham has information. He sources material that he tries to say backs up his info. That source material can be studied. Atheists have information. They also have information that they source. You can vet it. You can see if it's honest. You can take what is good and discard what is bad. And then what you end up with is a bunch of quarter and half truths or a bunch of percentile truths that all eventually intersect near somewhere that you can see sort of a big picture. All these different points of view. And then you can create sort of like a model that you'll be able to look at yourself. And you'll be able to see reality closer to what it actually is than what all these people want to tell you it is. And that's when you need to make sure your ego and all these biases that you have, that you become aware of them so that you don't fall into one of these traps. It's like a minefield out there. When you go trampling around the areas of politics, society, and reality, it's like a minefield. A minefield with the D, mind field of cognitive biases that screw us up big time, more so than anywhere else. And that's all I want to say about that. You guys take care, and I see you in the next video.